What's up, everybody? Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Curiel, Coach Drew here for the BU Stay True program. We're here to introduce another coach that we have this year for our sixth annual BU Stay True basketball camp, James Zucaro.
How you doing?
Doing well, bro. Thank you for being here. You're all the way out in Phoenix, Arizona, but you made the time available with a 3-hour difference just to, relate to our kids, their parents, and just to give them a little bit more information about you. And we'll start it off. If you could just tell them who you are, where you came from, and your connection to basketball.
Okay, yeah, cool. So I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and I started a love for basketball when I was like 7 years old. Started playing in just city leagues and the Stephon Marbury tournaments with Most Precious Blood in Brooklyn. And that's kind of where it started. And then I moved to Arizona when I was in high school. My family was looking to try to get a house, and my dad was a mailman. He put in for a transfer. And we came out here, and I got a good taste of West Coast basketball, and a little bit bigger, a little bit more athleticism, but I had the Brooklyn grittiness. So, and then I ended up going to play junior college ball in Arizona, and then played with you up in the Bronx at Mount St. Vincent. And then I also played a year in Ireland in Belfast and got my master's. So, yeah.
Attaboy. And obviously, like, you were fortunate enough to play both in New York and in the West Coast and in Ireland, so you had different understandings of basketball throughout all those times. And I know the story of your history throughout college, but can you talk about any adversity that you faced throughout your basketball career, whatever that may be?
Yeah, the first real adversity that hit home was I had a little bit of cockiness to me when I came to Arizona.
Was it the New York thing?
Yeah, a little bit of New York attitude. And I was cut from the team my freshman year. I was team manager my freshman year, so that was a huge learning experience. It was humbling and kind of taught me how to work. And then I kind of worked my way onto the team and ended up making varsity and that whole thing and starting varsity. But right before my senior year, I had tore my ACL. I'm sorry, at the end of the year, at the end of my junior year, I tore my ACL. So I basically rehabbed that whole summer and was fortunate enough to come back in October, right before my senior year started. So the ACL tear was tough. I didn't really know which way it would go. A lot of people, there were some stories of people coming back from it, but there was also some older stories of people not really coming back from it. But yeah, so I had tore my ACL there and ended up coming back, I thought, better than I was before, which it just kind of made me stronger. And then I ended up playing 2 years of junior college. And then when I went to school in the Bronx, we had a great year. And I was really kind of starting to feel some confidence again. And I tore my other ACL. So 2 ACL tears. I was heartbroken. I thought, like, man, maybe
it's not meant for you.
Maybe it's not meant for me. Yeah, you know what I mean? I was in New York already, and I was kind of like, am I going to have to come back and do a whole nother year of school? Like, I didn't know how my financial aid would work out and stuff like that. But it ended up working out, ended up getting some time away from basketball. Also showed me some things, too. I kind of had identified with basketball my whole life. So the ACL tear put a lot of things in perspective the second time, for sure. I was just growing up, and I became an RA on campus, was looking at different things. And then I was able to come back and get a senior year of basketball in, and it was one of the best years in school history. So it was pretty cool. I wouldn't have been able to play with all the good freshmen that we had that year if I didn't tear my ACL. So hindsight, it was a cool experience. Anything that happens, adversity usually makes you stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a cool way to look at it, right? Hindsight always looks better when dealing with adversity. And I'm sure for the young hoopers out there, whether it may be in New York or anywhere in the U.S. or Ireland, they're battling some adversity right now. And for you, was there anything that you gravitated to? Because you talked about how you got away from basketball, obviously, with the injuries. Was there any person or readings or music or anything that took your time up and got you through those tough times?
Yeah, I think initially I found a lot of inspiration through, like, that YouTube was kind of just starting up. And it wasn't nearly as big as it is now, but I found a lot of inspiration through YouTube videos and music. The second time around, I started reading a lot more. I think that one thing just recently with everything that's been going on right now, I think that there's a lot of wisdom in reading. And going back, I probably would have read more about the anatomy of the body, and then also like psychology. I was always somebody who got anxious before games, even as, you know, the leading scorer in the conference. At times I would get super nervous before games and throw up and stuff like that. So reading about the psychology of just life has been life-changing. So that's one thing that I would say, like stepping away from basketball, and kind of an opportunity that we have right now, because there's no games really going on. If you can learn about, you know, why you feel certain ways, or what may impact your game, or how you could be as a person, just reading, I say, would be a great way to go about that.
You have any recommendations for the young hoopers out there?
Yeah, Growth Mindset the book is called Mindset by Carol Dweck. There's another book called Mind Gym. That's a psychological book that talks about things. And I'm actually I took a course right now with a lady named Cheryl Paul that she looks more into like just anxiety as a person. Like if you experience anxiety at all, or nervousness, like if it's before school or anything like that. Like I was always a kid who was really nervous with change whenever I changed grades and stuff like that. And it just kind of talks about what that message is. Like usually anxiety is another adversity that a lot of young people face in our culture, but typically that anxiety is trying to tell your body to through your mind to make a change, in the sense that, you know, maybe you think negatively about yourself or about a situation that, you know, through anxiety you can kind of realize that there's nothing to really be scared of. So those are some recommendations.
One thing that I see prevalent throughout your whole basketball journey is resilience. And we're going to get into that for sure. Mm-hmm. But you're a very humble person, and I know that from just being your friend and being a teammate at the College of Mount St. Vincent. Would you be able to tell the parents, the kids that are watching, the type of career you had throughout your college journey, and what it means to you overall, dealing with all those injuries and the awards and everything that you got as well?
Yeah, I think I was just fortunate enough to have a lot of coaches believe in me, and really my senior year at Mount St. Vincent was a great year as a team, but it was a really good year individually. I was leading the conference in scoring at one point. I was first team all conference. Both of the years I was at Mount St. Vincent, I was an all conference player. I don't know. It's kind of hard for me I don't like bragging that much, but I don't know. It was a great individual year. I would say that the confidence was huge in that though. And that was something that I try to pass on to the younger players that we had. I think that I was surrounded by people who kept me confident when I was at Mount St. Vincent, and that was a huge trigger to my success. So I was an academic All-American at junior college, averaged about 9 points per game, 6 rebounds a game, wasn't really that confident. Yeah. And then, when I got on the scene at Mount St. Vincent, I had started and averaged 15 as a junior, was all conference, and then averaged 18 as a senior. And we ended up being a game away from winning the chip and going to nationals, which will be a day that
it must still burn a little bit. But just for everyone who's watching that knows me personally, James has been the number one leader I've ever, played with. One of the most humble dudes, but continues to put work into his craft. And we're going to talk about that now. You talk about resilience. I've seen it throughout your entire career, and now hearing your story even more just throughout your life. Can you talk about what resilience means to you and how you have continued to use that word to impact others past college?
Yeah, so it was actually the first time I had ever heard the word resilient. I was in my JV coach's locker room. We were down 20 to a team in Arizona. And we were down 20 to a team that was we didn't really think we could beat. And the coach wrote it on the board, and I had never heard it before. And he was like, he kind of expected that we all knew that definition, and I didn't know it. But it just held carry. We ended up winning that game, but it held a lot of water. I just was like, man, that's a tough word. And I had already had that type of mindset because I was cut my freshman year. So I was like, well, I'm never the type that's going to quit when the going's tough, So, and then just as stuff started happening, one injury we didn't talk about was I dislocated my shoulder my senior year.
Yes.
Which
practice.
That was heartbreaking because we were first place in the conference.
Yes. This was during intercession, right?
It was right. Winter intercession, first place in the conference. And we were rolling, like way better than people thought we would be. They pre-ranked us 8th in the conference. So
Yep.
it was like everything was coming to fruition. My fiance was in first place in her conference. It was like our dreams were coming true. And then boom, I went to the doctor after I dislocated my shoulder, and she was like, your season's probably done. So it was like, man, that with the ACL and everything, there was still hope. If you're going to take the rest of our senior year away, like when we're right there, that was, I mean, I remember being on the phone with Zarnock was in the car actually, and I was crying to my mom, like, I can't believe this is happening. But, God willing, I was able to come back after that too. It was only 2 weeks. So really my whole world came crashing down. And then 2 weeks later, we were back in the Nick, right? I mean, the freshmen did a great job. You guys won a bunch of games. Well, we won a bunch of games. We're a team. But, yeah, I mean, both of our seniors were out for 2 games, and we ended up, being able to ride through that and make a run for the title. But that was huge for me. And it just kind of put things in perspective. Like, I'll never question God again, because that was a tough time for me. Just because I was like, why would things be so good and then everything
why something else?
So that was tough. And I just kind of made a decision then that I wasn't going to question any type of adversity again. Like, I was just going to try to figure out how I could get positive messages through it. And after I had come home from Ireland, I was coaching freshmen at my old high school, and I really enjoyed it. And they started talking about, we'd love to train individually with you. So I had always wanted to create like my own brand. And I thought that just with the adversity that I faced and that I had seen others face, that I would create a brand that had something to do with resiliency. Like, it's about how hard you can get hit and not about how hard you can hit, to quote little Rocky Balboa there. But so I have I created a little business training kids, and I haven't been training as much, but I'll put stuff out on social media to feed positive messages and stuff like that. And lately I've been doing videos just for workouts at home and stuff like that, in case anybody's watching, so they have things to look back on and try to use.
That's dope. And it just shows that, never really question adversity, right? It's so tough to understand why, God may be putting you through this, or why something else is affecting whatever you want to accomplish. But it's important just to stay resilient and just stay on course. And you're continuing to show, future generations, those kids you coach and anyone else on your Instagram at resilience_basketball, that these are workouts that you could do to get better. And even during this time in quarantine, right? We're talking about the summer of separation, right? Trying to get better for the upcoming fall season.
Right.
There's the time just to continue to put in the work. Don't use it as an excuse, and just get better.
There's never been a time like this. And in fact, Arizona's opened up. So we're actually a little bit more fortunate than you guys on the East Coast. But one thing, like, I've been feeling, like I felt it today, we got a chance to go hoop because the open gyms are opening up. And I've been really taking advantage of being able to play, because there's been a lot of all the guys that play pro overseas and stuff like that are in Arizona right now. So it's great competition, and I'm lucky enough to get invites there. But I'm not working on my footwork as much now. Like, I was working on my footwork every day, even in the garage, and I was starting to get things down. And now that I'm playing so much, I'm like, man, I was really enjoying working on my footwork and learning about different ball handling things and things like that. So it's something that I'll have to mentally continue to, map out time for and do. But there's always an advantage to either side of adversity. You know what I mean? You can look at it. It depends on how you look at it. So yeah, it's a crazy time right now, and it's really rough, but you could definitely make some gains. And if you think about it, for the kids that are watching this, there's plenty of people that will use this as an excuse to not get better. And this is a
100%.
time to pass them up. So, I mean, that's completely up to you.
Absolutely. And I think you perfectly transitioned it. We have been running this camp for 5 years, right? And we never had the opportunity to have you at our camp. I remember the first year we ran it, Nico and I, we were naming off people like, boom, 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 this is what we're going to have. But we never had the opportunity to bring you on board, right? But now that we're virtual, right, because of the pandemic and everything like that, we can make it happen. So with you coming on board and finally joining the staff and having your own coaching session, especially with footwork and pivoting and reverse pivoting, right? The details, which are so important on the court, which eventually gives you the other building blocks to elevate your game. What are you looking forward to teaching our kids, showing the parents, and, just overall teaching and coaching?
I've always admired what you guys have done from a distance. You know what I mean? It would be great if I could have made it up to the Bronx, but it just didn't happen the last couple summers. I'm really looking forward to just impacting in whichever way. I love that. One of my favorite parts about being a coach is I never really had athleticism throughout. Well, not like a special athleticism coming up. So I've always wanted to just see if people could understand like the things that I used to be the scorer that I was and the teammate that I was and the playmaker that I was with a touch of athleticism or a different part to their game, what that could become. You know what I mean? Like I had always learned, like I always say, like when I get older, my game won't change much because I don't jump much. You know what I mean? I don't get by my defender with speed. So as I get older, it's not like when I lose speed, my game's going to change much because I don't have a fast game. So I'm looking forward to teaching people with all types of athleticism, whether you have very limited or a ton, just, fundamentals of the game and how far that could take you. I would say that's what I get the most enjoyment out of. And I really love the idea that we're going to get to do it in a community that I don't really get to have impact in normally.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just about, basketball has taken both of us so far, right? And I think for the young hoopers, they don't see that yet, right? Because they're all stuck in their community playing against the same people that they know. But honestly, you can learn basketball from so many people. And for you, you've been fortunate to play across the U.S., in Ireland as well, college, high school, junior college, all of that. Has there been any coaches that have motivated you or inspired you to and kind of shaped your game in a way?
Yeah, I've been blessed to have so many coaches that fed me confidence along the way and just gave time to teach me. One thing that I would say that I kind of learned in college is I used to be fueled by negativity a lot. Like if somebody told me I couldn't do something, I would get fueled by that. Or like, I was kind of a hothead in gyms every now and then. Like if people thought their game was really good, that would like amp me up a little bit. I mean, hopefully you guys are watching the Michael Jordan thing.
Yeah. I took that personal.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. But I found that like just in terms of overall joy and happiness, like I think you could find more motivation in the people who support you. Like now when I'm kind of struggling with workouts and stuff, I'll think about like my mom or like, my assistant coach in junior college, Jerron, my friends that had kept me going, guys who were Division I athletes at my junior college that like I felt like I was on a team that I didn't even belong, just made me feel like I was in. And just like, man, it's crazy that we're still on this journey and like I get a chance to give back now. I think that the positive people in my life help motivate me more. So I would say that that's one teaching point. Like try to find motivation in both if you can.
That's a gem right there. We'll see that on Instagram pretty soon. And to round out this conversation, I've been asking all the coaches all time. You don't got to name the top 5 best, but if you could name 5 NBA players that you enjoy watching.
Okay. I love Damian Lillard. I love Damian Lillard. He's one of my favorites. I really like watching Andre Miller because Andre Miller was another person who didn't really use athleticism to score. So it kind of makes me feel like I can he's actually top 5 for me. I love watching.
Can you give the folks watching at home where they can find those videos of Andre Miller?
You can find, if you look up Andre Miller on YouTube, his best years were probably with the Denver Nuggets. He's got all types of years though. Like if you look, he was probably one of the worst athletes on the court, but they went to him for game always. I wouldn't say Joe Johnson, although I love watching Joe Johnson. I would say Andre Miller over him because Andre Miller is like 6 foot and Joe Johnson's 6'7". So, But similar type of games, I really like Luka's game right now. Jeez Louise, that boy's tough with Trae Young, all those young guys coming up. But I would say Luka's in there right now. I always watch when LeBron's playing, so got to watch LeBron. I mean, he's the king right now. And for a 5th one, who's somebody? JJ Redick. I always tell kids JJ Redick's footwork, man. But that's obviously because I try to patent my game after these people. So I'll always be amazed at JJ Redick's footwork as a shooter, just the way he gets the ball, the shot off, and how he's always a guy that gets like these contracts for 1 or 2 years with all these teams that are on the up and up. You know what I mean? Like New Orleans brings him in as a vet to try to teach the young guys. Philly wanted him to spread the floor when they had their rebuild going on. Like, I like that guy's going to have a job for the next couple of years, even though he's getting older, because of just how he uses his brain. And
off the fundamentals. I think that's a very solid 5 compared to the others. I mean, everyone has an opinion, but that's just a very, very solid 5. To round this out, I just wanted to ask you, we're going to be doing this 6th annual BU Stay True basketball camp virtually July 19th. Everyone could sign up and register soon when I put up links. For you, if you give one piece of advice for all the kids at home that are going to be attending this camp, or they may be watching in Ireland or over the U.S., wherever it may be, if one piece of advice for them when they come to the camp.
I would say come to the camp with like an open mind, because I would always go to camps and like I think I would always want to like maybe show how good I was, or like sometimes I remember being at a Staten Island camp when I was a kid. And I really didn't want to do the big man footwork drills because you couldn't win a free, not that this is going on anyway, but just to think about it, there was drills where like you could go to this shooting part and all the kids would go to the shooting one and you could win a Big Mac if you like won the shooting drill.
Big Mac sandwich?
A Big Mac, yeah, they had tickets. McDonald's was a sponsor.
Okay.
So you could go win a Big Mac, but me and my brother, we didn't want to wait in line, and there was a big man drill with like 2 kids there was like 300 kids at this camp, and only like 2 kids were working on the footwork at the big man drill. And that was the first time I learned an up and under, like just a pump fake, use my footwork. And you're gonna have me teach footwork, and to be honest with you, like if I didn't have an open mind that day, I probably would have started learning that I just played with 25 overseas pros in the gym, and I scored probably a bucket a game off up and under, pivots, jump hooks, left, right. And that one I was probably 8 or 9 years old. That one drill is what started me being like, oh man, like I was always a thicker kid. Like I could use my body and score. So come in with an open mind. If you think some drills are boring or like you don't really know because it's not going to be as flashy, it's going to be recorded, right? So they have you have access to it for as much as you want. Rewatch those videos. And also one thing like from the book, with the lady Carol Dweck that I said, mindset, she says in there, like people with the growth mindset understand that they're not going to get it perfect the first time. Like if you see somebody work on footwork and things like that, and you're like, oh man, I don't have that in my game right now. Just work on it. We're all going to be building fundamental drills. You're not supposed to be perfect at everything. Nobody is when they first start out. So keep an open mind with that, and just do your best. Have fun with it.
Absolutely. That's a perfect way to end it. Thank you, James, for the interview and letting people know who you are, what you do, and how you're going to be impacting our camp this year at the 6th annual BU Stay True camp. If you want to follow us, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at BU Stay True _ and on Facebook at the BU Stay True program. And you can check out our YouTube channel as well. James, I thank you, and I look forward to seeing you July 9th.
Thank you, man. Appreciate everything you're doing for the communities, especially right now.
Gotcha, my boy.